Hey everyone, it's Ventus. Recently, Klei announced a new single-player expansion to Don't Starve called Shipwrecked. Once I saw the announcement, I was pretty excited for it. For those of you who don't know, I played and streamed Don't Starve every day for several months last year, mainly playing ROG. After Don't Starve Together was announced instead of a single-player expansion, we got the multiplayer expansion instead, I wasn't really excited about it. At least not initially. Um, that has changed since, but that's a topic for another day. I wanted a single player expansion. I wanted something like ROG. And I guess after all this waiting, all this time, that's exactly what we're going to get now. We're going to get a single player expansion. So I wanted to talk about Shipwrecked based on the information that we have right now. Kind of the initial impressions and speculation, possible content that we may get from this expansion. The announcement for Shipwrecked came with a 17-second trailer. It wasn't actually that much in terms of content. It was 17 seconds, but only about a third of it, maybe only about a fourth of it, was actual content that we can kind of speculate about. We got some ominous music, Wilson being Wilson, kind of being scared, rowing away from what looks like a catfish shark thing, chasing him through the water while he's on the boat. And that's basically it. We basically got all of that in about 5 seconds. From the trailer, what we know is that there's Wilson. I guess he's the main character of Don't Starve. We got boats, we have water, we have a catfish shark thing, and the expansion is being developed or co-developed by Cappy, or Capybara Games. So I guess I'll get to the actual in-game stuff later. I'll start off by talking about Capybara Games. Admittedly, I don't know much about them outside of them developing Super Time Force and Sword and Sorcery. Both games are single-player games and have received a decent amount of acclaim, especially Sword and Sorcery, for its narrative aspects. How does it relate to Don't Starve? Well, probably not at all. Aside from the developer having experience with making single-player games, developing a single-player experience, I really don't think that we're going to see much in terms of what they could bring to the expansion, at least compared to what we could have expected from Klei if they were to have made the expansion by themselves. It's not going to be that big of a deal, I think. The fundamental aspects of the game will probably remain the same. We're still going to have the survival aspects, we're going to have the combat aspects to sustain yourself, and we're going to have a kind of timed aspect to it in that there's phases during the day, and that over a couple of days we're going to have hound attacks, we're going to have some kind of panic event, and we're going to have seasons that will be calmer or harsher, really depending on what the season is. That much is not going to change. But here's some food for thought. I guess this is the kind of crazy, interesting part that you may find kind of cool. Obviously, Cappy or Capybara Games is named after the capybara, a real-world giant rodent. So perhaps, I think it's pretty likely, we'll see a capybara creature in Shipwrecked. Now this is taken from Wikipedia. The capybara inhabits savannas and dense forests and lives near bodies of water. Well, we know that Don't Starve has a savanna biome as well as a forest biome, and there's water everywhere. You know, the border of the world is just all water. The Shipwrecked expansion will likely be related to water, and as we saw from the trailer, we may be able to row through water on a boat, or maybe there's some swimming mechanics. We don't know yet. All of these elements point to the likelihood of there being a capybara in Don't Starve Shipwrecked. It's pretty cool, right? Just a little food for thought, some interesting stuff to kind of lead into the other speculation that I have for this new expansion coming out. So enough of that. Let's look at Klei's official Shipwrecked page. Just a line or two from their actual official page, and it says that the expansion has new playable characters, biomes, creatures, and seasonal effects. So I'll start off by saying that all of these categories are plural, so unless it's some kind of mistake, we'll be getting at least 2 characters, at least 2 biomes, etc. Which really makes you wonder, especially with the biomes and seasonal effects. Like, how much more can they add to the game, really? So I guess I'll start off there. My initial thoughts after seeing the trailer was that there would be a water biome for you to traverse in a boat or some kind of similar object. That much is almost guaranteed, but at the moment, we still don't know how that'll work. especially when considering combat and survival. There are just so many questions that have to be answered in the next couple of weeks or months. Are we going to float on top of water? If so, how do we fight? How is the combat system going to be changed? Will we be able to build structures on top of water, or will they have to remain on land? Can we dive underwater? That much is uncertain at the moment, but I think it'd be pretty cool for the game. So far, we can't really answer any of these. It's just, we don't know. We don't know the inner workings of Klei. We don't know the inner workings of Capybara, so this much is all in the air. But, judging by how Don't Starve works at the moment, I think that combat will remain the same or relatively the same. There will probably be pockets of land separated by water, and there's going to be some kind of sailing aspect by boat. So, let's call these water areas the water biome. The water areas that currently border the world, they're going to be replaced with a kind of water biome that you can actually travel through. And maybe we'll get this dangerous water biome, maybe like the ocean biome or the sea biome. These are areas that you can't cross by boat, so the outer limits of the map will be changing. To add on top of all of that, in media, water is often associated with a beach or a tropical island type of area, so those are two possible biomes that could be added with Shipwrecked, the beach biome and the island biome. The water biome will be an area that's crossable by boat. You can probably fish off the side, and staying there will cause a little bit of trouble, like with the fish in the video chasing Wilson. The beach biome will probably be connected to the water biome, so those two are related, and the beach biome will most likely be the place where you dock your boat. The beach biome connected to the water biome will also probably be connected to the mainland surface biomes as well. That is assuming that the existing biomes from ROG will be in Shipwrecked as well. We don't know if the expansion is entirely a standalone world by itself, but I think it is safe to say that with new biomes, we're probably just going to see the new biomes kind of added on to the existing biomes, kind of like what ROG did with their new biomes. The beach biome will probably be similar to the grassland biome. It's probably going to be a calm biome with scattered resources, maybe stuff that washed ashore. The island biome is probably similar to the forest or savanna biomes. Maybe we'll see some capybaras there. These areas will have more concentrated resources, as well as bigger potential threats like spiders or beefalo. There will probably be many islands, and as you go to them, either by boat or through wormholes possibly, we're going to see potentially different types of islands. Maybe there are subcategories of biomes on these islands, or maybe these islands are just islands with specific biomes on top of them. Could be one or the other, could be both, we don't know yet. If it is the case that the islands are just going to feature the regular biomes like the grasslands, forest, savanna, desert, whatever, the stuff that already exists, it's probably going to be kind of boring. So I want to be kind of optimistic and maybe add a little more excitement to this discussion, because it has been a while since Don't Starve has received a single-player expansion, and I'm really hoping that it's going to be a cool one. We can't discuss new areas of the game with the surface alone. Don't Starve's mid to late game content is mostly underground, so we should expect the same from this expansion. That being said, instead of being an underground cave, maybe it'll be underwater, an underwater biome. How cool would that be? In this potential underwater biome, assuming that the game can handle adding swimming or floating effects, it might just be a character walking on the seafloor, which is kind of lame, but I mean, just having an underwater world will be pretty cool in general. In the caves and ruins, we're already exposed to pretty extreme hostile environments with dangers everywhere and a constant requirement for a light source. Underwater, light may not be an issue, but rather oxygen instead. If this expansion were to have an underwater section, then we'll most likely get a lot of new items to prepare us for that type of biome. Diving suits, snorkels, oxygen tanks, maybe even a submarine, stuff like that. We could see this in an underwater biome. We could see these kinds of items being necessities for underwater biomes. I'm trying to think outside of the box here, even though it may seem a bit crazy. The fact that there's a chance that this could exist is very cool. So back to how it relates to the underground biomes in ROG. Much like how underground has light bulbs, underwater may have oxygen bubbles, areas where you can restore oxygen and have a brief respite from the constant threats around you. The oxygen stat could be similar to health, hunger, and sanity, as well as wetness. Wetness was introduced in ROG So why not have oxygen in Shipwrecked? It's another cool stat that you could add to the game. Also, if underwater mirrors underground, we may have a standard underwater biome, as well as a deep sea biome. The deep sea biome may have less light, or maybe no light at all. It could be this underground cavernous area that's extremely dangerous. The ruins in Don't Starve kind of revealed a new lore to the game. We got a little glimpse of a kind of ruined civilization. There were a lot of artifacts, like the statues, like the night lights, and it really makes you wonder, what happened to this civilization? Why is it underground now? In the same vein, maybe there's something like this in the deep sea biome, something like Atlantis, a sunken civilization, once prosperous. We have the ancient civilization of land, now we have the ancient civilization of water. This could expand on the lore of Don't Starve by a pretty significant amount. Everything we knew about the world, well, let's just add a bit more of that mysterious aspect to it. The enigma of the Don't Starve world is what makes it so cool. Now, getting back into the mechanics of the game, on top of having to need oxygen, you're going to need light as well. Since it would be weird to make fire underwater, there could be some kind of replacement for that as well. Some kind of lantern or kind of illumination effect, maybe bioluminescence. These kinds of things are often associated with underwater creatures, and maybe you can have some kind of diving suit that illuminates the area for you. Basically, what I'm saying is that there's probably going to be a whole set of new items to explore and survive in an underwater biome. Really, really cool things that could be added to the game. But, I mean, then again, the expansion is called Shipwrecked, so the island-based content is more likely than underground content. So, going back to what we know about Shipwrecked so far. The fish chasing Wilson in the video could be similar to hounds on the surface and depth worms underground. They're kind of a panic event that occurs every few days to keep you humble, except instead of on land or underground, it's while in the water. If there's an underwater biome, this could result in those fish things swarming you from all directions. If we get islands, and only islands, then we have to be a little bit crazy in thought process. Maybe these fish shark things, they can swim in water. Obviously they can, and while you're on the boat, you can't fight, so you're completely vulnerable to them in the water. But maybe they're not fish. Maybe they're amphibians, so they have legs, and once you reach land, you think you're safe. You're out of the water, and the sharks are no longer chasing you, they're no longer a threat. Or so you think. At least in the real world, that's how it would work. But this isn't the real world. This is the Don't Starve world. Crazy things happen here. So maybe they have legs to allow them to walk on land. And, well, you're not safe. You're definitely not safe. And if you try to run away from them, try to escape on land, they'll continue to chase you down. But the good thing is, now this is your territory, and now you can fight back. Crazy stuff, it's Don't Starve. As for seasonal effects, I honestly don't know how seasons will play into the game, especially affecting the water environment that the game is kind of pitching at you right now. It probably just means on top of heavy rain and potential frog rain in spring, overheating and crops withering in summer, etc., stuff like that, we'll get a little bit more of those kinds of effects. For newer players, spring is kind of like a hellish start in ROG on default settings. Newer players don't really understand that you can get one of two seasons. It's kind of counterintuitive. So they may think that at times you get a large amount of rain and Beefalo are all crazy, and at other times you don't. Even though you're getting two different seasons, they don't know that. So there could be some kind of balance between spring and autumn. I think a lot of people that play this game find spring to be not very fun, and maybe when they start a new world, they just switch it to autumn so they have more time to prepare, and they don't have to really rush themselves or really deal with low sanity situations and being in combat more often so that you can sustain yourself because you have low sanity, because you need a lot more items for summer than winter, and just having a lot more to manage in the first season. Now this brings us to the question of whether or not Klei or Capybara is planning to increase the difficulty of the game. In vanilla, every little patch that gave us new content made the game a little more difficult in general. Once we got ROG, the first expansion, the game got a lot more difficult. In Don't Starve Together, the multiplayer expansion, the game also got a lot more difficult. So, judging by this pattern, I think that Shipwrecked will continue this trend. Shipwrecked will make the game a lot more difficult than it used to be. Right now, of the 4 seasons, autumn is the calm season, and I think this is something that Shipwrecked will change. Autumn can be known as this kind of dark season. Some people experience anxiety in autumn because the bright days of summer are over and winter is coming. So, this could lead to in game effects as well. Maybe passive sanity loss, or increased sanity loss at dusk or night. This will kind of match the sanity loss from wetness and rain in spring so that both seasons are not safe. It doesn't matter which one you get, you're going to have to deal with the sanity loss regardless. Seasonal effects may also include mob effects, similar to how Beefalo are in heat for the entirety of spring. For example, this is just one example that I thought of. Maybe pumpkins can be added into the game as a natural spawn. You may see pumpkin groves, or whatever they grow in, I'm not entirely sure. But on the full moon or at night in autumn, these pumpkins turn into jack-o'-lanterns and try to kill you. That's certainly fitting for something in Don't Starve, don't you think? Everything in the world is trying to kill you, so why not have pumpkins come alive during autumn trying to kill you? Something a little more comical and less dangerous, maybe gobblers are more common in autumn, because Thanksgiving, turkey. On top of additional seasonal effects and mob effects that could happen during the season, I also thought that this could include environmental effects. So, for example, in Don't Starve Together, the dragonfly was made into a raid boss style of enemy. It's located in its own isolated area full of magma pools, and when you approach a magma pool, your character will catch on fire. So here's the big idea that I have, starting with a little introduction and leading into what I actually mean. So bear with me here. Being shipwrecked is often associated with not just starvation, but thirst as well. Salt water isn't exactly potable, so maybe we'll get some kind of thirst mechanic in the game. A thirst mechanic could balance out a lot of the crockpot recipes, add new recipes with vegetables as the primary ingredients, and make it so that these vegetable-based recipes could restore more thirst than meat-based recipes. Finally, this would make them on par with stuff like bacon and eggs. Bacon and eggs are extremely easy to make and really readily available to you at all points of the game, just because monster meat is common, and as soon as you get a bird cage, you just pump out eggs like crazy. So with these kinds of crockpot changes and recipe changes, we may see more incentive to create vegetable-based food instead. And I guess if there's a thirst mechanic and meat doesn't restore much thirst, rip Wigfred. Finally, some balance. But, that's another topic. But the point I'm trying to make is that with the thirst mechanic, biome-based environmental effects could be implemented. The desert biome has been one of the most broken biomes since ROG's release. And contrary to the real-world desert, kind of a barren wasteland where nothing's alive, the ROG desert biome is life incarnate. Basically, cooked cactus flesh is jerky you can pick off the ground. You get a bunch of hunger and a bunch of sanity from it, and all you're trading is taking a little bit of damage. If you're wearing an armor item, well, you really don't take much damage at all, plus the cactus flesh heals you as well. So, where is the risk? Where is the trade-off? Where is the barren wasteland of death? And although dangerous, hound mounds are also very good constant supplies of food. They supply you with monster meat, which in turn can be turned into eggs for bacon and eggs, or you can turn them into gold. So the desert basically is providing you with a lot of sustain instead of danger, as contrary to what the name could possibly suggest. With the thirst mechanic, the desert biome could be a little more interesting. Thirst in the desert could deteriorate faster, which adds a higher risk to remaining in the biome to reap its rewards. Cactus flesh could be changed as well, making it so that you get an effect that's similar to mushrooms. Maybe if you eat it raw, you get thirst restored, but you lose health and sanity, which kind of adds to the risk of actually eating cactus flesh while you're in the desert. When you cook the cactus flesh, maybe the thirst regeneration will turn into hunger regeneration, and you won't get as much thirst anymore. So you have to really pick and choose which one you want, really. Do you really want the hunger right now? Do you really want the thirst right now? Are you okay with taking a hit to your sanity? What do you want to do exactly in the desert? And this kind of adds to that risk versus reward aspect that I think the desert should have. So adding a thirst mechanic, adding these biome-based environmental effects could make the game a lot more interesting than it used to be. Now, going back to what other environmental effects that could be added, I want to kind of make a segue into Don't Starve Together and a mob called the Ukis. The Ukis is a mob that was introduced with the multiplayer expansion, and it's another mob that you can find at the end of the suspicious tracks. You know, the tracks that you follow to find either the Koalefant or the Varg in ROG. And this thing has a really cool effect that I think could be made into an environmental effect. Basically, what it does is it spits mucus at you, and if it hits, it binds you in place, leaving you vulnerable to all attacks. Getting hit doesn't break you out of the mucus, so it's extremely dangerous. I thought maybe this kind of goop binding effect could also be an environmental effect in, let's say, the marsh biome. The marsh biome is this kind of oozy, mucky, purple area, and at the moment, running through the marsh biome, just like the desert biome, it's not really that dangerous if you know what's really going on. It's only dangerous if you stop. If you stop, tentacles could attack you. If you keep moving, tentacles will never be able to attack you. So adding this kind of ooze pit idea could be interesting. Make it so that during spring and autumn, these ooze pits are much stronger. They slow you down more, making it so that tentacles have more time to attack you. Compared to summer and winter, it's generally more damp or wet during spring and autumn, so in summer and winter these ooze pits are less dangerous. But because summer and winter are innately dangerous already, there's kind of a trade-off. So again, we're going back to spring and autumn being a little bit less harsh than the other seasons. This will just add more to that season, more dangers to that season. Of course, there's a lot of other potential seasonal and environmental effects that I could talk about, but these are just two of the ones that I thought would be pretty interesting. Now, moving on to like the truly interesting stuff, really, really interesting stuff, starting with creatures. So far, we know at least one creature exists, the catfish shark thing that was chasing Wilson in the video. Maybe we could call it the catfish, but I'd like to give it a much more interesting name. We already have the catcoon in the game, so that kind of covers the cat base. So I'm going to call this thing the tiger shark. The reason for this is because it has cat-like features, feline features like the head, and the tiger is a large predatory cat. This thing also has stripes, so again, tigers have stripes, this is similar to a tiger. And also, it has a dorsal fin like a shark, so tiger shark, right? It makes sense now if you think about it. Don't Starve's creatures are all kind of punny names. Catcoon, cat and raccoon, bearger, bear and badger, dragonfly, well, dragon and fly. Not the real world dragonfly. The list goes on. There's just a ton of these punny names. In the real world, the tiger shark is a large predator and a very scary shark. So it could function, like I mentioned before, in these kind of panic events, similar to hounds and worms, where you get anywhere between 8 to 12 of them chasing you around, depending on how the game works, of course. If the beach biome is a thing, we may also see creatures like crabs and starfish washed ashore, or even moving around. The mobs in Don't Starve are separated into 3 categories: passive, neutral, and aggressive. Passive being things like butterflies, they don't attack back. Neutral being things like pigs and beefalo that are pretty much harmless until they're provoked. So if you don't hit them, they don't hit you back. And then aggressive is obviously like hounds. That's pretty self-explanatory. We're probably not going to get that many passive mobs, but expect a lot of neutral mobs. This is the most common type of mob in the game, at least in terms of what's actively in front of us. We often see a lot of pigs, beefalo, stuff like this in front of us. And the aggressive mobs, they're more like conditional mobs. Hounds are located in the desert only, and they're only found near hound mounds. And of course, the panic event kind of hounds, they only appear every couple days. The giants, most of them are aggressive, and these giants only appear once per season on default settings. And I guess spiders are pretty common, but again, I still think that we see a lot more beefalo and pigs compared to spiders, unless you're just stuck in a swamp or stuck in a forest. Then obviously you're going to see a lot more aggressive creatures. So with that in mind, here are some ideas. Sea monkeys. We already have the splumonkeys from the ruins, really annoying things that I just absolutely hate. But you know what? Why not add more annoying mobs, right? Don't Starve is a game where the world's trying to kill you, so have these sea monkeys. In the real world, sea monkeys are also known as brine shrimp, and they're not monkeys at all. But in the Don't Starve world, just make them monkeys, you might as well. Or make them shrimp monkeys, have a little fun with it. Maybe have like a monkey head in a shrimp body, or a shrimp head in a monkey body. Actually, that's kind of freaky, so don't think about that. That's not cool. Pumpkin monsters. Like I mentioned, with new seasonal effects, we could have these pumpkins growing during autumn. They turn into jack-o'-lanterns at night, and or during the full moon. Full moon is often spooky in this game, and maybe even the pumpkins in your farms will come alive and try and eat you. That's pretty spooky too. Now, there has to be a way to counter them, so maybe if you have a pumpkin lantern on the ground, they're going to avoid you because you killed their kin or something. I don't know. Just experimenting with interesting ideas that could be in the game. Dogfish, another mob that could be in the game. Half dog, half fish. The real world dogfish is a kind of shark. It's a smaller type of shark, so maybe it's not going to be as aggressive as the tiger shark, but maybe it'll still be an aggressive mob of some sort. Maybe a territorial mob like frogs or something. Seagulls, or other types of marine birds, or if we get tropical islands, maybe have tropical birds. We could see them appearing as one of the other types of birds that randomly spawn and land on the ground and pick up seeds. Along with the crows, snowbirds, and redbirds, we may have these kind of seagulls or tropical birds. They could also be kind of standalone, kind of like vultures, or I guess if you count tall birds as a kind of bird. Basically, we could add this kind of passive creature to the game that adds to the ambience of the game. These birds kind of landing and making noises, just being annoying until you kill them or you just walk near them and scare them away. It can be a pretty cool aspect of the game. Shellfish. Oysters, clams, and cockles. That's something that people have been saying a lot recently. So maybe we can have something like that in Don't Starve. Giant oysters would be pretty scary. Maybe they'll clamp on top of you and you can't move for a while, and then they'll spit you out. Adding new mechanics to the game like that could be pretty interesting. Or maybe they can be kind of similar to the Slurper. The Slurper is a ruins mob that jumps on top of you and constantly drains your hunger. If we have that thirst effect in the game, maybe the oyster or whatever could clamp on top of you and drain your thirst. I don't know. Just have variations maybe of existing mobs. Or maybe they're fish with shells. Shellfish, right? Fish with shells? Maybe that'll be what the shellfish is. It's pretty funny stuff. How about squids? Half squid, half kid? Yeah? No, probably not. I just wanted to get this part in there. No, I'm kind of obsessed with this game. Anyway, back to Don't Starve. We could have variations of certain mobs. I kind of had this idea thinking about the guardian pigs that are already in the game. Guardian pigs kind of look like exotic versions of the existing pigs that we have in the game, the ones that spawn from the pig houses and are located in pig villages, the ones that you can craft. And, well, these guardian pigs, some people may not have seen them before. They're somewhat rare spawns in survival mode, and even in adventure mode, you only see them every once in a while. So we could have stuff like exotic-looking bunnymen, or water spiders. A lot of the existing mobs that are in the game are already pretty cool, so adding certain variants to them, well, that's just going to make it even cooler. And of course, if we're talking about mobs, we got to talk about the big ones, the really powerful mobs. ROG added the Varg and 3 more seasonal giants on top of the Deerclops. We got the Moose Goose, the Dragonfly, and the Bearger, so maybe we'll see some kind of water creature. Maybe not like a seasonal giant, but something really powerful, like a tree guard, maybe like a coral reef guard. We also have the Ancient Guardian underground. We might have some underground thing, like or underwater thing, like a kraken, a sea serpent, maybe Cthulhu, or some kind of Lovecraftian monster. It definitely fits into the dark themes of Don't Starve, so these are all options that could be added into the game with Shipwrecked. I'm just really excited for these creatures that could be added into the game. I'm really excited to see what Klei and Capybara will add to the game in terms of stuff that you can interact with in terms of combat interactions. And finally, I guess the most exciting part, new characters. Yes, it's plural. So we're going to be getting at least 2 new characters, just like how ROG added Wigfrid and Weber. Here are 3 ideas that I have for characters at the moment, starting with the pirate character. So as you may or may not know, we got a teaser in ROG. There was a small update a couple days ago in the form of a sunken boat with a pirate's parrot on top of it. The parrot's name, Wally, kind of play on the name Polly. Polly wants a cracker. Wally wants trinkets. You feed Wally trinkets that you fish out from the water in the form of flotsams. These flotsams can randomly appear on the map, and you just use a fishing rod to fish them out. If you feed Wally the right items, you get a hint that relates to an online puzzle that Klei made. The puzzle has since been solved. Well, even though it has been solved, we kind of got the parts pieced together. Its meaning is still unknown. We don't exactly know what this means for the game yet, and what it could potentially be hinting at. We can just make these speculations. But the point of this video is not to talk about the puzzle. You can check that out on your own. I'm pretty sure other people have made videos or have posted on Reddit or forums about it, so you can check that out if you're interested. The point of this video is to talk about the expansion as a whole, and now we're talking about characters. So the character that we already know exists is Wally, but Wally is an NPC. Now, Wally may be related to the pirate character that I had an idea about. So when we talk about water, the ocean, seas, islands, stuff like that, pirates are often a topic of discussion, and pirate characters, this kind of R-matey kind of pirate, is probably one of the most obvious ones to expect. This pirate could be a pretty balanced character who thrives in dangerous situations. Pirates are, well, they're known for piracy, right? That's where the word comes from. So this could be a character who, instead of losing sanity in combat against scary mobs like spiders, he'll gain sanity instead. But as a drawback, if he's on land for a long period of time, he loses sanity and wants to go back to the sea. This pirate could be really good at sailing, so whether you're in water, either swimming or on a boat, depending on the content. Again, we don't really know what to expect yet. Maybe he moves faster, or he regenerates sanity rapidly. If you need to build the boat item to go across water, maybe this pirate character could start off with a stronger ship, or build one with less resources, or even build a better version of the boat, kind of like how Wickfrid can build a better version of the spear. Also similar to how Wendy has Abigail, and as of Don't Starve Together, Willow has Bernie, maybe the pirate could summon Wally in some way, either as an annoying companion that does nothing but squawk at you, or as an interactive gameplay element that you can feed to get stuff back. Pirates, I don't really like pirates in general, but I think that this could be a really fitting character for the game, especially if it's going to be an expansion that is heavily based on going from island to island and traveling through water. This is a character that could be very strong in terms of just traveling over water. The second character I had in mind was a fisherman. This character may be one of those generic old men with a beard and they're wearing a raincoat and they're from these kind of fishing communities. He'll be kind of eccentric and with this kind of I've seen it all back in my day kind of attitude, that kind of archetype. Maybe he'll have some cool lines mocking the giants because back in his day, giants were much fiercer than they are now, or something to that effect. With no offense intended, I imagine this character to follow some kind of hillbilly or waterbilly kind of character. Most characters in the game already fit a kind of stereotype or an established character archetype, both in terms of their design, the way they talk, and just how they're being played. So having a character like this could be pretty interesting. As for his unique characteristics, maybe he thrives in rain or is naturally resistant to rain. Because of that, he may not be as good in summer and winter. This could be a kind of challenging character with a stronger early game but weaker as the game goes on, because in spring or autumn, you're going to be able to be a lot stronger. So because you start in spring and autumn in general, he'll be stronger in the early game. I guess in some way he'll be kind of similar to Wendy, this kind of early game character. Just don't give him a lower damage multiplier. Even though Klei doesn't really balance Don't Starve for the sake of balancing, at least competitive balancing, they do offer unique character experiences. They offer character experiences instead, so having a lower damage modifier, even though there are ways around it, it's just plain annoying. And this is just a little segue coming from someone who played a lot of Wendy and actually likes Wendy as a character. Now back to the fisherman. Maybe he gets 2 fish and 2 eels when he fishes from ponds, instead of just getting 1, because he's proficient at fishing, right? On top of that, he could craft some kind of battle fishing rod. Similar to Wickfrid's battle spear, it's both a fishing rod and something you can use for fighting. Also, to add on his fishing prowess, maybe he gets sanity from successfully fishing. When he pulls a fish out of water, or when he pulls two of them out of water, maybe he gets something like 5 sanity back every time he catches something. But as a kind of drawback, because he has this really reliable way to regenerate sanity, he has to fish. And because of that, he has to only eat fish, frog legs, and vegetables, which means that if he eats meat, he'll lose sanity, regardless of what kind of meat it is. He could also have an effect similar to Willow, except the opposite. Maybe he's scared of fires, so he can't get too close to a campfire or a fire pit, or he loses sanity over time. But when he's wet, he'll gain sanity instead, so he's a character who thrives in spring again. There's a lot of risk versus reward with this type of character, so I think it'll be pretty interesting. Finally, the last character I had in mind, with ROG we got Weber as a monster character. With Shipwrecked, let's continue that trend by adding a water monster character. Conveniently, Don't Starve already has a water monster in the form of the Merm. Merms and pigs are mortal enemies. Well, they're basically water pigs, right? They put each other's heads on a stake in their respective territories and are sometimes seen fighting out a kind of warlike situation in certain randomly generated set pieces. So because of this, Merms will naturally draw aggro from pigs and probably catcoons and bunnymen as well. And in exchange, Merms will be neutral towards this Merm character and won't attack unless provoked. The character could start with the ability to create rundown houses to generate Merm buddies for yourself, just like how Weber starts with a spider nest. Like the fisherman character idea, the Merm could thrive in or near water, moving faster and gaining sanity, or even amplifying his damage while wet. But when overheating and freezing, he'll rapidly lose sanity, and his damage may even go down, making it really important to maintain his body temperature and even maintain wetness. Because he's a Merm, he won't be able to eat fish, eel, frog legs, or any other recipes made by those items. That would just be kind of wrong, wouldn't it? So instead, he'll have to hunt down pigs to eat. As for how this character operates in the shipwrecked environment or potential environments, the potential biomes, let's say on an island, in the water, or underwater environments, he'll probably be a very strong character there. If there's an underwater biome, perhaps he could swim underwater without needing any devices and breathe underwater, more importantly, so he won't really be bothered with oxygen effects. And because of that, he'll probably be less effective on land, so he'll lose hunger and sanity really fast when not in water, and that kind of encourages the character to go underwater more. And because of that, because of the new potential dangers of water and what you could expect from dangerous mobs underwater, you'll be kind of put on a timer to prepare for it more quickly than the other characters, or face the consequences of naturally deteriorating stats in your hunger and your sanity while you're on land. On top of all of that, he could have some really cool quotes as well. One of the coolest aspects of the game is how the characters speak. They kind of make comments about objects when they examine them. So maybe one of the ideas could be having him comment on how much he hates tentacles. Merms and tentacles are known for fighting basically every time you enter a marsh biome, so there could be some kind of reference to that. And that is basically it for the characters. These are 3 characters that I kind of brainstormed, really focusing on the water mechanics and the shipwreck mechanics, as well as the wetness mechanics, and potentially some other things that could be added to the game, like thirst, or certain seasonal or conditional environmental effects as well. These characters could play on top of that. Now, to tie things up, Shipwrecked might be interesting in another way as well. Note that when you create a new game, there's a checkbox that allows you to enable or disable ROG. This means that you may be able to own Shipwrecked and access the Shipwrecked content without having ROG. So you can play Shipwrecked with vanilla mechanics, or you can combine all 3, having vanilla, ROG, and Shipwrecked enabled. Again, at the moment, we still don't know much about this expansion. Basically, we don't know anything at all, so it's all speculation. But it's cool speculation. It's cool to think of what kind of gameplay modes and what kind of content we could get from this expansion once it gets released. So basically, that's it. That's it for my preview and speculation on Don't Starve Shipwrecked. It's mostly speculation and thoughts on what this expansion could bring to the game, but above all else, I hope that you found it interesting. Shipwrecked is supposedly coming out in autumn, so we'll be getting more news soon. Maybe I'll make another video on the content as it gets revealed. Maybe leave your comments below. What do you think about these ideas? What you think about what could happen? Maybe share your ideas as well, because the Don't Starve community, I guess, is a pretty nice community compared to a lot of other online gaming communities, and sharing these ideas is pretty cool. Anyway, until then, I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching. Goodbye.